Hey guys, it's me, Mega Man here, and I am back for some more yet again for the likes of the Maxi Toys videos once again. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back for some more of Let's Play of Klonoa, Empire of Dreams for the Game Boy Advance. So last time we pretty much concluded the forms of the first world in the game, which is by the forms of Grass, Soul, Land, and it's a pretty swell world if I have to say so for myself right there, so either way though, yeah, today for this episode is the fact that we are moving on to the next world in this game, which is Prior Mill. So even then though, I wonder what this place is going to be able to take place, I wonder. Which, if I can able to grab my controller here, and this takes place in Apora Town. So, oh jeez. Ugh. It's hurting my head. What on earth was that? That was Magzika. Masuka? She's a world-famous soprano and the pride of this opera house. But lately she's been giving everyone a headache by singing. Like that. Sounds like a monster to me. A monster? Please don't say that about Mazika. Her songs were so simple yet meaningful, and she used to sing so beautifully, but now... Well, let's go and check it out. Please. Bring back the old Mazika. So yes, here we go on to World 2, and of course we'll start things off in Vision 2-1, so either way though, let's get this thing to it. So either way, much like always, we are able to actually just, well, trying to able to grab all these, star crystals, which, apparently though, I somehow made a mistake about the forms of what these yellow objects are called, but usually, relatively speaking, is that like, Moonlight Museum, that, these yellow objects are usually called star gems or something like that, or star crystals to be more specific, because I keep thinking about another game that does usually have sunstones, but that was actually by the forms of the second game on the GBA, so either way though, but we'll get to that until next year. So because of that though, as far as any other Klonoa Let's Plays we would like to consider doing, apart from the fact that we are still carry on doing Empire of Dreams, of course, but we might also try to able to have some considerations of able to maybe trying to do with Klonoa 2 Lunati's Veil, for the sake of this year though almost. So, but either way though, we'll have to wait and find out until specifically due time. So either way though, yeah, let's get this thing to it, and as you can tell, we're now able to actually just to start to interact with the gusts of wind. And remember the forms of the Klonoa Moonlight Museum, that we do have to use those specific little special type blocks in order able to actually just to block the actual gust of wind if you really want to progress in certain puzzle sections. So because of that, yeah, you probably get the idea how this goes. So either way though, yeah, today's day is of course the, what day is it today? I forgot. I know it has been a couple of days since I actually did done some of my commentary and all that stuff, but usually today it's the 6th of July today, in this case in 2021 today. And, something's worth pointing out right away is the fact that, as far as what Maxi has already mentioned about this, ever since in Pac-Man World 3, Let's Play so far, basically it's the fact that, by the time until when it gets to the point until this Friday, and, potentially speaking, that we're probably not gonna upload anything for the sake of the forms of, well, this, upcoming Friday, in addition to the weekend as well, mainly it's because we might able to take a holiday break, which, that seems pretty fantastic, all things considered, because unlike that, you know, miserable last year, that we didn't go out anywhere. So because of that though, at least I'm glad able to actually take a, some time off, for the sake of the forms of recording sessions on certain YouTube videos of ours. So, yeah, wish us luck for able to actually have ourselves a nice time on the forms of, well, specifically, we're still going to be ended up in the UK, but on a different, some sort of like a holiday trip. Mainly with, like, Dorset, for example, and, hopefully we'll have a nice time there. So because of that, though, and I'm hoping that the weather should be, excellent as always, or ever will be, but we'll have to wait and see what happens there, as I said. So either way, though, not much else to say about that, and because obviously we are still about to be doing some recording sessions on this, along with, you know, Pac-Man World 3 and Mario Party 5. So either way, though, because you know, things do take time, if depending on the forms of some stimulations involved. So yeah, you probably get the gist of it. So anyway, let's just go ahead and open up the actual the circle-shaped key until we progressed. So yeah, there's not much else to tell for this point. So oh yeah, something's worth mentioning for this point as well is the fact that obviously we've only got about 10 days left until The Legend of Zelda Skyward Sword HD is going to be releasing on the Switch. Even though some people do have massive controversial segments, most notably with how the gameplay plays out, just like the Wii version of the game. Although, mind you, you can able to actually play the game with button controls now, which is always swell. But aside from that, with the forms of the actual life of improvements of, you know, fast travels is locked by the amiibo, which at this point in time, it's still currently unavailable at this rate, and I can definitely tell right off the bat that most gamers might find this a bit of a struggle without any sort of, like, life of improvements or something, which is kind of hard to explain because I know it has been, well, quite a few days since I actually did manage to able to mention something like that, but I digress. So, and yes, as far as I'm aware, that, if you couldn't tell already, that, oh wow, I actually did manage to complete the stage, so, yeah, how's that for that? Even though I have no idea why I say things like that, to be honest with you, because either way, though, that's as far as I can usually honestly try to talk about, so. I'm gonna say, this music does remind me of something almost related to Paper Mario vibe, but, except the fact this isn't strictly in 2D games, so. Oh yeah, apparently though, it's that some of these Klonoa games that sadly, although the first game did sell pretty well, but not the strongest selling points ever, but at least in Japan it did sell very well. But as far as the rest of the series are concerned for Klonoa games, it kind of sucks that the games did sell well though, which is kind of sad, honestly, because this is probably the most underrated series of all time, along with Shantae series and all that stuff. But usually, relatively speaking, it's just the fact the matter is, though, is that the pricing for those games are gonna get ridiculously overpriced physically. Because, you know, much like the forms of, let's just say, Shantae series, mainly with, like, you know, limited run copies of, you know, Miski's Revenge, you know, Director's Cut on the PS4 and stuff like that. That game is ridiculously expensive. And, also, the Pirate's Curse or something like that, that might be also a bit expensive. And, well, I can't really say for sure for this, honestly, because even then, compared to the original Shantae for the Game Boy Color, specifically the original physical version of the game, that has not been made by Limited Run, that the pricing is ridiculously overpriced, like 300 quid, like almost over the top price compared to the forms of how it does it on Klonoa Daughter Phantom Isle for the PlayStation 1. So that was like, okay, that seems a little bit more controversial for the sake of the actual pricing. I get it because of the forms of that commercial failures, or specifically marketing. So because of that though, yeah, you probably expect it by that point, so. And also, as you can see, we now stumbled across the forms of the returning feature ever since the previous two Klonoa games for sure, if you count Klonoa Nintendo Wii Remake. And that is, of course, the actual switches, as you can see. And basically, if you do activate those switches, it allows you to able to progress in certain rooms or certain sections. So, yeah, things gets a little bit more relative at this point. If you guys have ever seen our Let's Play of Klonoa Moonlight Museum already, so, yeah, you probably get the gist of it, so. Anyways, let's go ahead and, keep on exploring from here. And it's kind of a shame that we can't actually duck on certain sections, because obviously we ended up confusing for the sake of the forms of likely 2.5 perspective or something. But then again though, it has been quite a few days since I actually did manage to able to come back to this though. So well, at least ever since about last Thursday, because obviously the one thing that I suppose that I think Mexi has already mentioned about this ever since in Pac-Man 1-3. What do you guys think about the forms of our new intro that has been up ever since during the course of the very beginning of the 7th month of the year, which is of course July. So I'd like to hear your thoughts, because even then though, that at this point in time, it will still continue that tradition for the sake of like, for the first half of the year that we always ended up stuck with the forms of one intro, but then if we move on to the second half of the year, then we obviously change the actual intro sequences. So just in case we're able to have some different variety on them, especially noticeable about the fact that, well, usually what I've noticed is the fact that I like to be able to have some different variety on these specific topics worth noting for. So, yeah, you probably get the gist of it, so. Plus, we're getting ourselves some ridiculous amount of extra lives, even though at the moment, we only got about 15 lives so far. But again, that is pretty easy to get extra lives in this game, but I said this before, that in order to be able to get them is by simply collecting more of those, well, Klonoa tokens. So, because that way, it allows you to be able to actually just, well, rank up some more extra lives and then all that stuff, so. Oh yeah, something's worth mentioning is the fact that, relatively speaking, I always get confused at first when it comes to the actual timeline on certain, games of Klonoa games. That, for what I've researched on the forms of, specific Klonoa games for the actual timeline as far as story progression goes, that I suppose maybe, just maybe, that, usually that the Klonoa Moonlight Museum is technically like a prequel to the original Klonoa Daughter Phantomile, according to the actual timeline. So, in this case though, it does manage to take place before the events of Daughter Phantomile, but then eventually that Daughter Phantomile exists. And also to top it off is that, oh jeez, I need a cube somewhere, which thankfully it's up there, so hopefully we'll obtain that. And, well, trying to toss it all the way to the left. And, yeah, everything else goes all fine and dandy and everything, so. And there we go, and, obviously we've collected them all, so either way though, I think we're doing pretty alright and such, so. Anyway, so now let's move on to Vision 2-3, so let's see how this level brings out to be, so, yeah, anyway, and, after, Klonoa Daughter Phantomile, I'm guessing if I recall correctly, that, basically, that, this game right here, Empire of Dreams, it does take place after the events of Daughter Phantomile or something, and, exponentially before, Klonoa 2 Lunity's Veil or something, even though I have no words to say, just because, well, obviously, that I was originally going to be able to try to go for chronological releases for those Klonoa games originally for those Let's Plays in mind, but for whatever reason I just got a little bit of a, well, mishmash of confusion, so either way though, I do apologize for that. But eventually, whenever we get on to, like, God knows when, likely the end of the year or something like that, then we can probably tackle for Klonoa 2 Lunity's Veil for this year. So because of that, between both, this game along with Klonoa 2 Lunity's Veil, both games are gonna be 20 years old this year, so because of that though, jeez, why is time always flies all of a sudden? Even though despite the fact that I'm pretty darn sure, if I'm guessing correctly, that those two came out roughly the same year as that Tom and Jerry the Magic Ring. I'm sorry, it's just that I'm just not a big fan of the forms of, well, Tom and Jerry the Magic Ring, you know, direct-to-DVD movie, which is just easily, it's probably is the weakest thing to me though, because although I liked it as a kid, but watching it back again is not only kind of painful to me, but also very, to me, boring and sloppy compared to any other, like, Tom and Jerry movies, including the films of the most recent release of the live-action adaptation or something like that, even though that's, the the actual fans do like it, but critics-wise, they just managed able to find it to be unbearable. But, either way, I still haven't watched it yet, mainly it's because of the fact that, well, it's been locked on demand back in the day, but then recently that the DVD release already came out, so God knows I might as well able to see it, but I might be curious, but either way, it's just the fact of the matter is though, it's just that most people complained about, you know, live-action people can be very awkwardly done. So, in this case, though, it does feel slightly similar to when, do you remember the film called, Osmosis Jones? That, it's technically, it's like before, Inside Out exists, that, usually those little, characters are actually inside someone else's body. And, apparently, it's more accurately before Inside Out exists. And, well, except the fact that Inside Out does that way better, because although the actual ideas of Osmosis Jones is actually a cool idea, but story-wise, it's a bit dumbed down, and most of the jokes not really all that funny, to be honest with you, or the humor for that matter. Although the actual visuals do look colorful though, especially during the course of the inside portion of that, Bill Murray. Body, or actor for that matter, even though he has been quite donkey's years since I actually know about Osmosis Jones. But yeah, let me know in the comments below for the question of the day. Have you guys seen the films of Osmosis Jones back in the day? Although, because that film is also going to be 20 years old as well, along with the films of Harry Potter and the Philosopher's Stone, or Sorcerer's Stone if you lived in America. So at least that's something, usually it's like a name change or something like that. So, quite fascinating, I suppose, whenever that name is actually changed up a bit. So, but I digress. So let's go ahead and just grab some more of those, dream crystals and all that stuff, so that way we could able to get maximum potential for able to actually just to, well, you know what I mean. So, I mean, something's worth mentioning for this point as well is the fact that I managed able to still go back into, well, let's just say, Hyrule Warriors Age of Calamity recently, and since I've done quite a lot of ridiculous amounts of button mashing segments all over and over and over again, but if it does get a bit tiresome, then I can basically just manage to switch over to a different game, Mario Golf Super Rush, instead. Because that way, that game does make able to actually chill out every now and then. But that's how it is for me. So anyways, let's do a double jump here, and we finished the vision. So huzzah for that. Now let's move on to, let's go ahead and move on to Vision 2-4 first, and then Vision 2-5 afterwards. So, and of course we're going to be heading back onto the actual the hoverboard sections, as you can see. So either way though, but hopefully I'll really refuse able to actually miss those crystals. So either way though, I don't know what happens if you do manage able to collect all of these dream crystals in each level though, but I do know for the fact that I'm pretty darn sure that unlike the forms of how it does it in, well, specifically Klonoa Moonlight Museum, that if you collect all of these dream crystals in each level, in each vision, basically you do get yourselves the unlockable, slots for the actual picture image, and same applies to, Klonoa 2 Dream Champ Tournament, and, also Klonoa 2 Lunati's Veil. So, either way though, at least I was guessing that correctly. So, there we go. We've completely much done with this particular stage. So, yeah. I'm pretty darn sure is that once we complete that particular stage, we always ended up unlocking the another level, which appears to be by the forms of, Vision 2-6, but then again, we'll save that until for later, because now we move on to Vision 2-5, and the main gimmick of this level is that these little pumping, like, platforms, as you can see, and also the spring elements does make a return since the first vision, so, yeah, you probably get the gist of it, so, yeah, anywho. Oh, and also another thing is worth noting for is that I managed to able to play the game on my own time, which appears to be buddy forms of, well, let's just say, both Metroid 2, Return of Samus on the Game Boy, and Metroid Samus Returns, and Super Metroid recently, just because of, you know, Metroid Dread is going to be on its way for the Nintendo Switch, because obviously I think that most people seem to be really excited for Metroid Dread, a lot more than any other announcements. Although, don't get me wrong, that as far as what, Maxi has already mentioned about, ever since in Warrior Land 2 Let's Play, ever since about almost a month ago, that, basically, that he was pretty much excited for, you know, the new Super Smash Bros. Character, which it already did happen, and also that we've pretty much excited for another new Mario Party game, which is Mario Party Superstars, and also that, well, the new Super Monkey Ball game, Super Monkey Ball Banana Mania, and also Metroid Dread, new WarioWare Get It Together, and all sorts of other, like, announcements that he was pretty much excited for. So because of that, yeah, I was pretty expected to see how this will turn out for the sake of this year's E3. So I suppose we should probably wait until the next 300 days or so, until we move on to the next entry of the E3 announcements, and it's going to be on 2022. And hopefully, it should be a lot more, well, let's just say exciting compared to the forms of how it does it in, well, because for I've heard that they managed able to have some promises when it comes to 2022, that it might start go back onto on live stuff again, which I was really hoping that was the case, because obviously that this year's focus is on digital only, which I'm fine with that, but it does have some missing elements to the forms of the past years, but oh well, what can you do? But at least it's not the end of the world, because after all, with all these announcements and everything, so, yeah, everything else will be hyped by then, so... Oh yeah, something's worth mentioning for this point as well, is that I'm pretty sure that, Maxi has already mentioned about, ever since in Pac-Man World 3, Let's Play, kind of thing of it, actually, is the fact that one thing I totally forgot to mention is that, generally speaking, we're actually doing double, Namco, Let's Plays, which one of them is based around Pac-Man, and another one, Klonoa, during the forms of the same Namco, company, departments. I have no idea why I say things like that, weirdly enough, because I know it has been quite a few minutes since I actually did mention something like, new, or just anything for that matter, so, yeah, I'll just have to able to, you know, try to forget about it, so we'll just, trying to place that block somewhere, so, yeah, until when it gets to the point until the later stages, though, is that sometimes certain puzzle segments can get pretty tough at times. Although, whenever we move on to the forms of Klonoa 2, Dream Champ Tournament, eventually, until next year, as I said, oh man, you won't see nothing yet for the sake of certain puzzle segments, so... But for the most part, it's pretty standard for the most part, so either way though, we'll just carry on and then just try to use that block again, and climb from the ladders to proceed to the next sections, and yeah. Oh, and also another thing, I managed able to actually look, replay through, I don't know about you, but obviously I did manage to also went back onto Sonic Mania Plus for the Switch, and overall I did have a good time on it, even though I do need to get a little bit of a practice on that game until, God knows, until whenever we decide to do Sonic Mania Plus, as in Encore mode playthrough, because I know you guys will be waiting for that for such a long time, because obviously the last time we did done the Let's Play of Sonic Mania was actually in 2017, and the version we played is obviously the Switch version, so either way though, hopefully we will try to sort that out, but of course I do need to get ourselves a bit of a practice though, between, let's just say the PS4 version first, and the Xbox One version later on, and yeah, and then we'll save the Switch version as the Let's Play version of this particular point, so yeah, that should be worth noting for. So because of that though, I'll try to start things off on the PS4 version first, and then the Xbox One version, because as you know, that we finally managed to get ourselves Xbox One S, because again, we were originally going to be able to try to get Series X, but I just simply give up purchasing it now, just because it was quite hard to find right now, even though I've seen some specific stores managed able to actually have them for restocking, but usually around the same price as it originally attempted. But some scalpers out there just keep on going, and it's just a bit too much, I'm telling you. It's just a bit too much. And also we got ourselves this new element right here, which appears to be those little, rotation switches, and basically if you activate those, basically it'll just rotate the actual room around, so that way it can able to navigate through. If I kind of think about it, this thing does remind me of that similar item element as in the forms of New Super Mario Bros. In the last level in the game, that if you do manage to able to hit the rotating block, basically it'll switch over or shifting the actual room around to able to rotate. So yeah, it's kind of a similar mechanic right here, but regardless of such, that we only here for the sake of the forms in the last star crystal to able to obtain to, you know, completely done with the actual main level right there for, you know, Vision 2-5 and stuff like that. So, now I'm quite surprised too is the fact that, potentially speaking, that we've almost nearly at the end of this particular Let's Play so far. Even though that we're not exactly at the halfway point of the game yet, but hopefully we will do by the time until whenever we these will actually be keep on uploading for, you know, Tuesdays and Thursdays potentially. So speaking of such though, is that there will be still some more uploading schedules for this for every Tuesdays and Thursdays, but I must admit though right away that I said this before already, that until on Friday and this weekend so far, that we're probably not going to upload anything until when Maxi will decide to take a break on Pac-Man World 3 after Wednesday and such like that, because obviously he do need some time off for able to actually have himself his nice time at Dorset, as I said earlier, and you know, we still need to be careful out there, especially noticeable about the fact that it's bad enough that as far as what, I don't suppose, I think Maxi has already mentioned about this either, but, apparently though that the UK lockdown thing was actually going to be delayed, until, well, the lockdown easing is going to be delayed until, well, thankfully it's going to be this, coming month we're still on July at the moment, but we still need to wait for a while, until 13 days left, so, and hopefully we'll get ourselves a glorious freedom in the UK country. I'm not exactly sure about any other countries though, but, we'll have to wait and see what happens during the later days and beyond, so... But you know, you get the actual point of itself right there, so, oh jeez, that was really close. Especially, again, if you don't keep up with the actual, the auto-scrolling, segments, then you're probably gonna get live strained very fast. But, thankfully, that does not seem the case at all, for the sake of my, you know, trial and errors and all that stuff, which, I have no idea why I say things like that, I must admit, but, anyways, let's go ahead and hop onto these little, objects, all these obstacles here, and, hopefully, I don't know if I can get that extra life, but who cares about that, because obviously I've got 23 lives at this point, so I think we should probably skip that one up for now, and although, kind of think about it, I think I just somehow managed to give my second thoughts about obtaining that to begin with, which I have no idea why I say things like that, because let's face it, it has been you know, quite a few minutes since I actually did manage to mention something interesting and new, so anyway, so I think we've almost done here, so we just got ourselves quite a few disappearing platforms here and there. Oh yeah, there's something worth mentioning though, is that if you step on those blue platforms, as you can see, basically much like the previous games for sure, that if you stand on them for too long, it will just flicker for a few moments and then they'll just disappear on you. So yeah, keep that in mind, especially noticeable that you have to watch out for those until you well, as I say, as you can tell, that the auto-scrolling section is vertical, so because of that, because unlike the first Vision world, that's usually horizontal auto-scrolling section, but at the very least in this second world, it's gonna be like vertical auto-scrolling, so yeah, you get the gist of it. So anyways, let's hop into this little cannon, and then basically that will pretty much give us a guarantee to able to clear the Vision, so... Even though generally these cannons do manage to make their first appearance in the forms of Klonoa 2 Lunati's Veil, technically speaking, because obviously that, you know, they're able to actually just blast you into certain segments of the world. So, But then again, we'll talk more about Klonoa 2 Lunati's Veil by some point this year. Because originally we were able to do it on 2022, but we couldn't care less though, be able to actually just to push it forward slightly, because obviously that after all that we're still working on other projects lately, so and by that time, whenever we're able to actually finish up with multiple Let's Plays in the future by summertime, then like for instance that, well, if we are able to decide to do the Forms of August month for the sake of Let's Plays department, well, generally speaking, I don't know about you, but I'm pretty darn sure that we might able to actually do a let's just say a redo Let's Play or something, or specifically that with two new Let's Plays combined in together, which we'll talk more about that until whenever we get on to August, because I mean, let's face it, that I don't suppose we can able to come across into something surprising at this point, as far as I'm aware, but either way, let's just go ahead and climb down, and hopefully we would be able to do some continuous exploration here, so because thankfully we don't need to worry about the time limit or anything else like that, whilst unlike in certain games like Wario Land 1, you know, Super Mario Land 3 and Virtual Boy Wario Land, that you do have to worry about the time limit if you manage able to do a lot of exploration, so but you know, everything else point stands, basically. So either way, though, let's just go ahead and, oh, really? Okay. Come on, thank you. Oh yeah, and another thing that I suppose Maxie has already mentioned about this as well, that recently Monsters at Work is now finally up on Disney Plus services. And, it's actually pretty cool to be able to see the actual, Mike Wazowski and, James P. Sullivan on the actual, TV once again, ever since in Monsters University, the prequel to Monsters Inc. So, yeah, and, I haven't watched it yet though, because I'm still in the middle of this process of watching Loki, so far, but, I'm sure that Maxie will mention more about it until when he goes back into Pac-Man World 3. So, either way though, we're able to actually mention more about it and during that time. So, anyway, let's go ahead and, use that to do a double jump, and, hopefully we'll do the same thing from there. And, well, we can probably do this all day. Well, despite, you know, there's gonna be a lot of... Oh, dang it! Okay, at least we got the triangle key. But there was also the forms of a different shaped key, as you realize that, as you can see on that silhouette. And because of that though, since this is on the Game Boy Advance Nintendo console, so this may actually be the first ever Klonoa game that has been on a Nintendo console. Because obviously that, the original game was only exclusive to the PlayStation 1 on Sony, well, until the Wii remake for Nintendo platform. And, as far as I'm aware, the Moonlight Museum was exclusive to Bandai for the Bandai WonderSwan. And, as far as Klonoa 2 Lunati's Veil is going to be exclusive to PlayStation 2. And there's also, 2 other Klonoa games for Nintendo Game Boy Advance games. Like another one which I already mentioned this earlier, Klonoa 2 Dream Champ Tournament, and finally the Forms of Klonoa Heroes, which is generally the RPG game. So because of that, you know, with the role-playing game, and it's only in Japanese release only. So I'm guessing it's mainly because the international releases of Klonoa games didn't sell well compared to Japanese or something, which I don't know about that, but either way though, let me know in the comments, because obviously that I'm sure that most people managed able to appreciate, able to actually vote, that maybe Klonoa could be on the Smash Fighter, but again, we only got one fighter left, so in this point in time, so either way though, and plus I get the feeling that, well, it certainly might not likely, because obviously with, Wind Bullets might be a bit of a short detection for, you know, Klonoa's moveset for during certain Smash matches or something. But at least as far as I'm usually just trying to be like clueless, so. So anyways, let's go ahead and keep on moving, and then well, I mean, let's face it, there's not much else I can say because I already mentioned about several stuff, so. Anyways, let's go ahead and toss that to the switch over there. So just in case that... Oh look, we got ourselves the key heart, which is actually a replacement for the sake of the forms of, well, let's just say a square key or the X key, I'm pretty sure. Mainly it's because this is on a Game Boy Advance, and obviously the Game Boy Advance does not have, you know, well, it still has a circle key and a triangle key, but not so much the square key or the X key somewhere, so... And as far as I realized something, that I seemed able to missing something, which, if I could double check quickly, yeah, I'm pretty much missing out on those dream crystals, and there's no way I can go back. Mainly it's because, well, it's not too high enough, so we're just gonna have to sacrifice ourselves for this point, because, well, despite the fact that that was actually our first step of the playthrough, so I do apologize for that. Although mainly it's because I'm just trying to able to, like, 100% for everything. So yeah, first step of the playthrough, and because of that though, it's just the fact of the matter is though, I just simply missing something, so... But you know, you get the idea about that. So yeah, and also much like in Klonoa Moonlight Museum, that obviously you do have 3 hearts to your disposal. So because if your 3 hearts is out, then basically you will lose a life. So yeah, things gets a little bit more simpler for that for the sake of time. So, but anyway, at least we actually got those dream crystals, usually relatively speaking, so yeah, sure, it's something. And also, much like the forms of Klonoa Moonlight Museum, is that the checkpoints do act out if you must able to entering a different room, so at least it's not much else different from there. So thankfully, if you somehow die in a room, then it actually respawns into the forms of the room you enter in. So at least that's a good thing, because unlike you know, Klonoa Daughter Phantom Isle and Klonoa 2 Lunati's Veil, that in order able to activate the checkpoints, you have to like activate the clock, and basically that actually represents checkpoints. So, but you know, you get the suggestions for that point. So anyway, let's just go ahead and continue our progression here, and it looks like that we've almost done with this level, basically, even though despite the fact that I got my first death. So but things gets a little bit more relative at that point, especially whenever we continue our progression. So anyways, let's enter this room here, and it looks like there's not much else in here aside from well, just more crystals, and especially noticeable with the forms of some more enemy encounters, and there's the end of a level just right there. But before we get into there, we need to grab the final star crystal, so that way we can able to actually open up the door. And I'm pretty sure it'll do the same thing until when it gets to the point until, well, let's just say Klonoa 2 Dream Champ Tournament, and not so much in the forms of, Klonoa 2 Lunati's Veil. So because of that though, because usually relatively speaking is that in each and every single handheld entries of Klonoa games, they always attempt to able to make you trying to able to collect those, you know, these star crystals, as far as I'm trying to guessing that name. So anyway, and I just realized that I've only got 1 heart left, so if I somehow get hit, then obviously I have to restart the entire room again. So but thankfully not the entire level though, because obviously checkpoints will activate it if you approach to the next room or head back to the previous room, so at least you're able to get that. So there we go. Boy, that took a bit of a while to able to complete that stage, and now let's move on to the boss level in the second world. There she is. We've got to do something about this racket. Okay, aim for her belly. Thanks for the hint, Klonoa, because you're making the actual boss fight a bit easier for me. So yeah, basically this entire boss fight, all you have to do is basically we have to use those specific of the actual enemies that usually got trapped inside this particular boss, and then obtain the enemy as a projectile and toss it onto her belly. And you have to do it 3 times, and that's all you have to do for this boss fight. So yeah, pretty easy fight though if you get the hang of it though, because thanks to forms of that for the sake of that hint, that Klonoa just managed to able to mention something earlier. That means, thank you Klonoa, I appreciate it for that useful hint. So, anyways, let's aim for her belly for the second hit, and oh jeez Louise, I did not know she's actually gonna get twice as big, well, for the sake of that attack. But I'm really hoping I can able to actually deal with her for the fun. Oh my god! But at least, at the very least, I did manage to finish her off. So there she goes. And that pretty much concludes this second vision. So, yeah. I'm pretty sure this video goes by very long though. Especially noticeable you have to do with a lot of puzzle solving and exploration too. Oh dear. The townsfolk were suffering because of your singing. What do you mean? I dreamt of singing the most beautiful songs and spreading peace of happiness throughout the land. Barley mentioned loving your songs. What? Barley? Oh yes, I remember. I dreamt of singing a wonderful song to Barley. But I can't remember the song. Hey Klonoa, could someone be taking advantage of people's dreams? Each time I tried to remember the song, a mist appeared and everything went quiet. Mist? It wasn't red, was it? No, it was blue. A blue mist. Thanks to you, I am ready to sing again. Now, I must practice a new song to sing for Barley. Good luck, Masika. Thank you. Farewell. First red mist, and now blue mist. Looks like Klonoa's puzzled after all. So anyways, we got the endings of this point right here. So join me next time on Let's Play Klonoa Empire of Dreams. It's that we'll hit on to the forms of the third world, G, Duo Bob. So see you guys on this Thursday. Later, fellas.